Hi again, everybody. Today we have Michelle Claire, a medium, with us. She's going to be sharing her experience, telling us a little bit about what she does, and giving us some words of inspiration and wisdom. Michelle, welcome to Five Little Stones. Thank you so much for making the time out of your busy day. I know you have a reading right after this and an appointment, so thank you for making that time. Welcome.
Well, good morning, and thank you so much for having me. It's truly a pleasure to be here.
No, it's my honor. I'm so excited because, first of all, like we were talking a little bit before starting the recording, I noticed the angels in the background, and I love angels. They just, I believe, are beautiful in many senses. Tell us a little bit about what is the reason or why do you have the angels in your office, and what does that mean? If you can share with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I work very closely with the angels when I'm doing readings. So I feel like they um, are actually helping me connect with people's loved ones and other angels and other life guides for people and some information, psychic type information. So I'm always calling them in. They're a very clear, powerful channel for me. And actually, the first time I was truly exposed to like an angel was in my first near death experience. And that was the first time that I had literally seen one.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And now that you bring that up, I don't know too much of your background, which is actually a good thing. That way, I don't have any preconceptions or whatnot. And this is like a blank slate. We can create a brand new painting. So please tell us a little bit about your background. We briefly talked, and you mentioned you have three near-death experiences, which is mind-blowing. I would have never imagined that, and I know that has to have had a big impact on you. So tell us a little bit about that, but even beyond that, like who are you? What motivates you? What's in your heart? So people, I'm sure, are excited to get to hear that story.
Yeah. Well, my first near death experience happened in the year 2000. And I was actually at a hospital when it happened because my niece had been born that day. And I had a massive seizure. And during that seizure, I remember waking up in this beautiful white room. And when I describe it, literally, it was like every cell in the walls was alive. Every molecule of air, everything was just glowing and radiant and beautiful. And as I looked up, I was laying with my head in my grandma's lap, and my grandma had transitioned a couple years before that. And she looked like the youngest, healthiest version of her that I could remember. And as I was laying there, just kind of in awe of the feelings of the completeness of the joy in this room, I look up, and standing next to her is an angel that was at least 12 feet tall. And I remember just being like, oh my gosh, I had no idea they were that big, And as I looked at her, I could see that her wings were not made of feathers, they were actually made of light. And it was kind of like maybe the northern lights or the aurora borealis, like they were moving and wavy, but they weren't like feathers, bird feathers, or as we usually see them. And so I thought to myself in my head, I thought, what is your name? And she answered me. She said her name was Madeline. And I was immediately also shocked because I was like, oh my gosh, she's telepathic. She knows what I'm thinking. Um, so I was there for a while. It was a place with no time. But what I remember after that is getting back in my body, not necessarily by choice. I felt like I was just kind of put there. And I remember hearing the people in the hospital yelling, code, 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 because I had stopped breathing during the seizure. And then I was back, and my body felt so heavy. Like one arm felt like it weighed about 200 pounds. It was just so heavy and dense compared to where I had been. So that was kind of my first experience with a near death experience. And I would say the mediumship for me kind of started when I was about 12 years old. My grandfather transitioned, and I would have visits from him. I would share them with my mom, and my mom would say, I know you think that's what grandpa would say if he was still here. And I was kind of like, well, I'm pretty sure he's still here, but okay. So I just kind of learned to keep that to myself. And I didn't get information for other people. It really was just kind of this connection and communication between grandpa and I that continued on. And it felt very natural and normal. And so that was that. So then I had that first near death experience in 2000.
So I was gonna ask, but you answered a little bit if the mediumship started after the near death experiences, because I've heard that a lot of people, they have a normal life and then suddenly something like that happens, and that's when they're
Mhm.
starting to become sensitive and realize there are other realities besides where we are at. But it seems that you had a connection before even that happened.
Yes.
So, and I know obviously for your mom, she just thought it was, a child having a big imagination and maybe, oh, how sweet. But tell us a little bit more about those abilities. When did you have that aha moment where you realized, well, this is not just my imagination or me being a cute little child. This is something real and there's more to it.
Right. That actually doesn't happen until my third near death experience in 2011. So the second near death experience is in 2006. Sorry, I had to think for a moment. And in this experience, it was when I was having a surgery. I had had my son 6 weeks prior, and I had had a lot of complications and been in the hospital most of that time. So they said, we'll do this surgery. It's an outpatient surgery. You'll be fine. You'll be home in a couple hours. So the night before, I had this feeling I should not go through with it, but I was so tired of being sick, and they made it sound so simple. So I went, and what happened in that near death experience is I remember laying on the gurney in the operating room, and I had had this beautiful white German Shepherd who had transitioned a few years before that. And she came in there. She was 102 pounds, so she was a big, beautiful dog. Came in there, laid her head on the gurney, looked at me, and we were gone. We were gone, just like that. We were on this phenomenal beach, this place with no time again, this place where I felt 100% content, appreciated, loved, pure. Like it truly felt like this is me. We were running on this beach, running, running, running. Every leaf, every flower, every tree, every drop of water in the ocean was alive in its own right. It was literally alive. And we're running. And I remember looking at my dog, and once again, she's telepathic. And I know we're like having this communication, and she's happy I'm there, and I'm happy that I'm there. And we're just having kind of communication, and it was great. And I noticed we run and run and run, and I never get hot, tired, thirsty, none of that. And I'm like, gosh, this is kind of interesting. Well, then at some point in this run, I can feel my son, who was 6 weeks old at the time, I can feel his energy like on a soul level. So even though he was a 6 week old human, his soul's mature. That's how most of our souls are when we come in here. I can feel him nervous that I was leaving and scared and like, this is going to be a long life without my mom. And I go to him at that moment in time, and I say to him, I will find a way to stay. And at that point in time, I literally start to pray, and I see Jesus, and I feel the Christ light come in, and the room lights up, and there's some type of miracle that truly allows me to stay. The next thing I know, I'm waking up in the post op, and they told me my 45-minute procedure had turned into a 3.5 hour surgery. The surgeon had ruptured my uterus in two places accidentally, barely missed my artery by less than a millimeter. It was so close they couldn't even stitch it. They had to pack it. And it took me months to recover from that. So once again, here's my second near death experience. I get that taste of heaven. I get more intuition. I get all of that. But now my focus is still, I had 3 little kids, being a mom, being a wife, getting myself healthy again. And I kind of turn away from it. And I would say I was getting more visits. Now I was talking with my grandma or my grandpa, but it was all still very much just focused for me. It wasn't a message I needed to share with anyone, nor did I feel qualified to go out and give someone a message.
And then you said later on you had the third near death experience. Now, before you share a little bit about that, what comes to my mind is sometimes when things happen to us, it's natural to ask, like, why does this happen to me? Like, why did I almost die? And later on in my personal journey, I've learned to refocus instead
Mhm.
of asking the why, because sometimes you can have the answer of why and that still doesn't fulfill that need, or you don't have that closure that you're looking
Right.
for. And I think it's more important to understand what was the purpose of me going through this? Like, what is the teaching? What was this for? And in your experience, what do you think you going through not one but three near-death experience? What was the reason you had to go through these? Because not many of us like never had any of those, less alone three. So there
Mhm.
has to be a reason. Um,
Right.
I think so, but I don't know if you have that answer.
I truly believe it was almost to wake me up and bring me back to my soul purpose. So now, none of our souls are here with just one purpose. That's not how this life is, right? We come with multiple purposes. I was so focused that my only purpose was really to be a good mom and take good care of my kids. And don't get me wrong, that will always be my number one. You know what I mean? But that was really all that I was focused on. And so it was almost like the second time the universe said, but remember, there's more. It was truly felt like a remember who you are, not the human you, not that role that you're playing right now for this 100-year span, but who you are, the essence of you.
I think that's very powerful, because if we stop and just wonder the why, or have that, I call it my poor me
Mhm.
mentality, like, why me? I'm the victim here. But no, there's a teaching, or there's some wisdom behind that, and if we can tap on that, that's where we grow and make great advances in our spiritual life, or in our growth. So
Absolutely.
now let's get to the third one, and I hope you had one of those cards where the third one is free because of a repeat customer. Like,
Yeah, right?
hey, share with us a little bit about that third experience.
Yeah, so that one happened on 11/1/11. So for people who like numbers, that's a lot of ones. Um, and what happened that day was I was in my kitchen. I have 14-foot ceilings in my house, and I have up on the wall, about 12 feet off the ground, candles where you put the batteries in them, and every night they light up and glow for the same amount of time, and then they automatically turn off. So it was something I did all the time. I would just climb up the ladder, change the batteries about once a month, and be done. And I really never thought about it. So my two younger kids were home. At that time, my kids were 5, 8, and 10. And my 10-year-old was in school at an after-school program. And I said to my younger two, I said, I'm gonna put the batteries in the candle, and then as soon as I'm done, we're leaving to go pick up Ashley. I climb up the ladder, and when I'm up there, I know this is gonna fall, and I know this is gonna hurt. Like I know, because I can feel the ladder start to shift, and I'm like, oh, this is gonna hurt. The next thing I know, I'm literally yanked out of my body so fast, and I'm standing in this area of my kitchen watching, and I can see my body in the ladder suspended in the air. And these three people that I'm with, although I don't recognize them from this lifetime, I feel like they're very close family friends. I feel like I've known them forever. And they gave me the choice. They said, it was actually two men and one woman, and they said, "Would you are you ready to come home, or do you want to stay?" And I was given the choice. Before, I was never officially given the choice, I didn't feel like. And I could see this angel come in the room. And from the direction I was looking at my body, the angel was on the left side. And it was a huge angel again. And I knew that that angel had come in to almost like execute the plan. So if I decided to go, I would go. And if I decided to stay, this angel would do what I needed to do to stay. And I remember being in this timeless space again. And I just remember thinking, this is crazy. My body's going to hit the floor in less than a second. And I'm standing here with forever to decide if I want to stay or go. And this keeps going around in my mind because this is crazy. The next thing I know, I see my two kids that were at home. And when I see my kids, I know I have to stay. But at this point in time, there's a lot that happens, not just in my human mind, but on a soul level. And there's always this universal current. So there is what I call like a source energy, the universe, God. You know, to me, all of those words are very interchangeable. And I realize that if I stay, it's got to be different this time. Like, I don't even want to say that I knew the details of what that different was. I just knew that I was being asked to live another part of my purpose that I had forgotten. And I remember feeling like if I go back, it's going to be different. Um, but I saw my kids, so I chose to stay. What happens is I fall. I hit the back of my head on the corner of my granite island in the kitchen. I missed my brainstem by 1/2 inch. I had a 5.5 inch skull fracture, a brain bleed. I lost my taste, my smell, part of my hearing, my equilibrium. Um, but I survived by 1/2 inch. And I know for a fact that angel moved my head a 1/2 inch so that I could survive when I chose to stay. I'm in the hospital, I'm in an ICU for about 10 days, I believe. ICU the whole time, just the first couple days. And then I moved to like a step down unit. And then I come home, and it was really hard to come home. So this is the beginning of November, and there was a lot. I mean, it was really hard. Just things that had been really easy, just sitting up in bed, were not easy anymore. And so it took a while. By the end of January, so this is 2012, I was looking pretty normal. You know, and I was functioning. I was functioning. What is it good? No, but I was functioning, you know, and things around my house seemed to be fine. Cause you know how kids are. Like, oh, I had also broken my arm. So it was like 6 weeks afterwards when the cast came off my arm, my kids were kind of like, oh, mom's fine. The cast is off her arm. You know, they're not thinking about all the damage in my head. They're just like, oh, clearly she's fine now. You know, you're healed. But the end of January, my 5-year-old son started getting depressed. And he would tell me, he would tell my mom, my mother-in-law, anyone he was close to that would listen, he would say, I didn't need to be there. When my mom got hurt, I did nothing to help her. And we would say, well, Josh, that's not true, because he had tried to call 911 and believed it didn't go through. And we said, but you opened the door for the policeman. You know, when we were trying to build him up, there was nothing we could do that made him feel like he had helped. The end of January, my grandfather, who had transitioned when I was 12, that has never met my son in this life, came through to me, literally manifested. So as a medium, people don't usually manifest to me. I usually see them in my mind or connect with them in my mind. Manifested in front of me in my kitchen, started talking about my accident, started talking about my son, and said, you know, he's really good with electronics. And before he left, he said, you should get the 911 recording on there. There's something you should know. And I was just like, oh my gosh, that hadn't even crossed my mind. So I ordered it. It took a couple weeks to come in. And as I was playing it, I put it in and I heard them say, 911, what's your emergency? And in his little broken voice, my son Josh says, Sophie, what do I say? And he lays the phone down. And so for a minute and a half, they're trying to get their attention. Like, can you hear us? And you can hear like the noise in the background and stuff. And then my daughter Sophie, who is 8, says, he says, I'm gonna go push the house alarm, because he thought his call didn't go through because we have an alarm on the house, like the panic button kind of, right? And she said, no, hold on, let me see if I can call 911. She hangs up the phone and her 911 call goes through. And they actually dispatch her to the fire department, and you can hear them talking to her and they're saying, what's your mom doing? And oh my God. So both of their calls went through. When he came home from kindergarten that day, I said to him, I said, Josh, I said, your call went through. And it was like lifting this 10,000-pound weight off a 5-year-old boy. And you could see his feeling of worthiness. And I did something to help, and come flooding right back into him. And then we would go out to eat, and the server would be like, how was your day? And he'd be like, great, my 911 call went through. And he would be like, okay, you know what I mean? So it just turned into this experience that I could truly no longer ignore. Suddenly I got this huge message that literally changed the course of one of the most important people in my life, changed their course. I couldn't have done that as the human me had my grandfather not come in and given me information that I didn't even know existed.
That makes sense. So, and I can understand what motivates you now to give readings, because just like you were able to help your son just by giving him a little bit of information, or getting that information that ended up, um, for some people like the waiter, it didn't mean much, but for your son, it meant the world at that time.
Mhm.
And if I am not mistaken, that's what you're trying to do with other people. You're trying to give them that information that's it's meaningful to them, that can make a world of difference. So that's awesome and
Yes.
that's amazing. And also, as you were telling your story, it resonates with me, because I think, what helped you decide to stay here a little bit longer was
Mhm.
love, and love for your kids, seeing your
Mhm.
kids. And I totally understand that, because I have a similar experience. And I feel for myself that I was given a second chance at life, and I want to make the most out of it. And one of my goals is to, in a way, in agreement with your what you're doing, is make a difference for other people's lives, whether it's a word or an action or a feeling. If it can change somebody's life for the better, or help them, or get them out of the darkness, um, or wherever they're in their life at the moment, I
Mhm.
really feel very passionate about it. So I think maybe that's one of the, or two of the reasons why we connected. And I just feel a very familiar or welcoming energy in you.
Yeah.
So, and here we are. I believe that nothing happens for just for the sake of it. Everything happens for a reason. So
Right.
now you have direction, you have this fire, and you see the value in that you're out there. Uh, what happened next? Did you just fully just go talking to everybody? Hey, you need that. Hey, this would help you. Or
Right.
did it take a moment? Like, how did
Yeah.
you get from there to where you are now?
Right. So after that, I would start getting a lot of information or messages for other people, friends. So up until that point in my life, really, I felt like most information I got was directed at me. So I didn't necessarily have to share it. Well, then I started getting information for a friend whose husband had transitioned himself. I got him from, and all this other stuff comes, and I'm like, oh gosh, I got to share. Well, this is kind of scary because most of the other moms that I was friends with at that time were worried about potty training and math grades. And I'm like, I'm talking to dead people. You know what I mean? Which is funny and ironic that we use the word dead because there's no such thing as death. It's just a transition from one form to another. But anyway, so it took me a while. And when I say a while, I mean a couple of years to even be okay with that. And then I sought out a mentor to help me understand how I could make it on demand, right? Because I felt like a lot of times the information would come to me and there it was, but I didn't know how to go out and retrieve it or how to tap into someone's energy. So I had a mentor for 4 years. And then after that, I started working professionally.
Thank you. And for people that are interested in being able to communicate with angels or the mediumship or whatever their interest is,
Mhm.
um, what would you say to them? What would be your advice? Is this something you're born with, or is it something you can learn to achieve? And I don't know, maybe through your own experience and people maybe thinking on your mentor, the way he or she helped you, because
Mhm.
now you have the ability, and I believe we all have the ability to communicate with angels and do amazing things, but some
Mhm.
of us are a little bit more open or connected to it and
Right.
have the ability maybe more developed.
Mhm.
So for those people that, I guess the message would be for two groups, and there might be more, but one would be for the people that are interested and they may not believe or feel that they have the ability. How can they get started? How can they go about it so that they can reach that goal? And then
Mhm.
the second part would be for those people that have the ability and don't know like, what is this? Like, what's going on in my life? I think it'll be important if you can share for those two different sets, based on your experience, something that could help them and guide them or motivate them.
Right. So, first of all, every single person has this ability. I think of it as similar to doing math, right? I will never be a physicist. That isn't, that's not my gift. It's not my strength, is what I want to say. So, but we can all do, percentages or, adding and subtracting. We can all do it to some level. So, we naturally, every single one of us, because what you need to communicate like this is a soul, and everybody has one, has the innate natural ability to do it at some level. And then at some point in time, what happens is if you kind of plateau at that, it's like going to get a tutor or like a muscle and you're strengthening it. So it would be asking someone to mentor you. There's so much free information nowadays on YouTube, on the internet. I mean, there's so many ways to find abilities or tools that will help you strengthen that communication. So even though, let's say, naturally most of us level out at some point in math, we could go higher with the right assistance or the right tools. Same thing with mediumship or communication with angels. For me, mediumship is the communication with loved ones who have passed. That includes animals. Animals always come through in readings. Angels, life guides, and kind of that universal type information. That's the same thing as mediumship. To me, it's all the same. And so anyway, for those people who have it, and I would guess that almost everyone has had some type of what we would call a supernatural experience in their life. Now, very often we let our brains talk us out of that, but it's happened. And so people can either choose to believe in that or choose to write that off. Your intention is one of your most powerful tools. So if your intention is, I'm going to grow this skill, I'm going to see the signs, and you're setting that out into the universe, right there, the universe is like, great, now let's help you out with that. And it starts giving you signs and it starts giving you what you're looking for. So that's kind of the first thing I would say. The other thing is there are so many different tools. There are things like binaural beats. There are things you can listen to while you're sleeping, like a binaural beats on a white noise machine or something like this, right? Or on your phone or whatever your app is, that are actually enhancing that part of your brain. When I do readings, I've actually done studies, and in these, one was at IONS, the Institute of Noetic Sciences, and then I've been in a couple other studies. But as we do these, for most people, when we're connecting with spirit, we're in theta state. So you're training your brain to go to that place where it's like the door's open. And you're saying, okay, spirit, what do you have for me today? So we can do that by meditation. We can do that by listening to binaural beats or certain wavelengths that enhance all of that.
That's very interesting. I think it's the first time I heard about binaural beats.
Yeah,
What
binaural,
is that?
BI. So it's actually like music, and it has a certain tone in it. Well, we're all frequency. We're energetic frequency. Your brain is, your thoughts are, your words are. It's all kind of like energy, right? So once we start listening to certain tones, it starts, our brains like light up and they're like, oh, I hear that. I hear that. So it's strengthening that part of your brain that says, I hear spirit. I hear my mom. I hear my child. I hear. And so what it does is it just helps you to open up to that connection and strengthen that part of your brain.
Thank you. And where can one get any of these? Are there like MP3s you buy online or CDs?
Yeah.
Or
All of it, the easiest way is to go to YouTube and to Google it. And of course, they'll come up with thousands of options, and then you can listen to them for free. And there'll be some that are 10 minutes long, some that are 3 hours, 6 hours. So you can kind of think about what you want to, what you want. And then there are different frequencies, like there's a 528 hertz that also helps increase. And so you can Google that, like what is the hertz sound to connect with angels, and find out what that number is. Then you go to YouTube and you look these up, and they're free, and there you go, start listening, and set aside time, because I'll tell you, if you even set aside 5 to 10 minutes a day, you're going to start noticing the difference.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for that advice and that guidance. And thinking about that, it makes me think about like those singing bowls, or I don't know if
Yes.
this is going to show, but like the Tibetan bells, that create those frequencies, and maybe even a step further, the mantras. When you're meditating and saying these mantras out loud, their frequency and vibrations. So that kind of supports a little bit of the how it works and why it works when you're doing that. So I think that's amazing, especially when you get that validation. You heard about mantras, but now you're hearing, oh wait, there's actually frequencies. So it is real. It does help. There's a reason why the wise people in the past started meditating or shared these meditations with us. So
Right.
I think that's awesome. And for those people that are serious about it, really want to find that part inside them and bring it out or remember that part of themselves, what would be the first or second step that you would recommend for any of them? If I want to sit down after our interview and meditate and, okay, I want to connect with an angel, maybe my guardian angel, or
Mm-hmm.
what should I do that can help me be more effective or successful?
So it's different for every person. So you might have heard of channeled writing. Some people can just sit down and say, I want to channel a message from my angel, and they just write this out, and they don't actually even know what they're writing until they read it when they're done. So one size never fits all, but channeled writing is a great way. Another way, one of the first steps though, is you have to clear your mind. So you can't be sitting there thinking, I've got to go to Target, I've got to go by the drugstore, I've got to take the dog to the groomer and then grab groceries. You know what I mean? That's not going to work, because we have to give the universe a quiet place to talk to us, right? But I will say this, meditation doesn't look the same for everyone. So for some people, it might be sitting in silence. For other people, it could be listening to music while they're cooking. It could be driving down the road. It could be going for a run. It could be at the gym. So meditation is not a one size fits all either. It's what quiets your mind and puts you in that place where you can connect. So first of all, figure out, what does your meditation look like? Right? How many people get out of the shower and they're like, I didn't know what to do. I took a shower and it just came to me, right? Because they're in the water or whatever this is. So number one, figure your meditation out. What is that for you? Then you need to figure out, how am I going to connect the easiest? Is it by asking a question and sitting quietly listening for the answer? Is it by writing? Is it by saying to the universe, I need you to send me a sign that I will understand? But then you need to be open to what that sign is. Maybe it's a license plate, maybe it's a feather, maybe it's a billboard, literally, or maybe it's the guy walking by you who says, hey, just so you know, I think you're going to have a great week ahead of you. And you've never met this person before, right? So being open to the way the universe will send you signs. Too often, we're like, I need a billboard with my name on it and 5 sentences, love God. You know, that's probably not going to happen. But that doesn't mean you won't see a billboard that you're driving down the street and all of a sudden you see like a, you've got this, or you can do it phrase on there. And you're like, oh, wow, that was meant for me.
Well, I'm glad you're sharing that there is more than one way to skin a cat, so to speak,
Yeah. Yeah.
because I know a lot of people have a mindset that if it's not this way, then I'm not doing it right, or it's not working, or it's not true, or whatever it may be. And I'll share a little bit of my experience. I've known people that have the automatic writing, like you mentioned, which is
Mm-hmm.
amazing, because one of the first times I saw this, I went to an angel seminar, and one of the practices is to meditate and try to channel a message from your guardian angel or angels. And there was a room of maybe 40, 50 people, of us, and we did the meditation, and I really felt very connected and a lot of energy and warmth. And in my hand, I felt like maybe an angel was grabbing it or something, because I was in the zone, so to speak.
Yeah.
And then I started writing, thinking what I'm writing, so just letting my hand flow. And in my mind, I was even worried of falling off the side of the notebook, because I was getting after it, writing left and right. And we finished the practice, and I opened my eyes and I look at my piece of paper, And there was a little scribble, like made no sense in my mind. I thought I had written like a dictionary of so many words, and it was
Right.
nothing. Like nothing. It made no sense to me, and I was really kind of frustrated, disappointed because I thought I had the connection. I felt it, but it was just not working. And then there were two ladies in the room that one of them had never done meditation, didn't know the first thing about angels besides what you hear either from the Bible or from pictures, and this is back in the day before internet was the internet.
Hmm.
And they were like, whoa, what happened? The other one, she did yoga, so she saw her notebook and it didn't like amaze her. Like she was like, yeah, I did it. But when they bring up their notebooks for everybody to see, and then the instructor brings a book that shows angel writing.
Hmm.
In the book, a lot of the symbols were music notes,
Hmm.
and that's why I love music. I heard, and back in this seminar, I heard like in my mind, well, music is the language of angels,
Hmm.
and so I even put that on my website at some point, and it's a slogan that it's with me since then because of that experience. But
Right.
when these ladies bring up their notebooks and they put it side by side, this reference book is the
Mhm.
same language, like the same symbols, the same graphics. And I was like mind blown of, first of all, wow, like they have the connection. This is awesome. Seeing it firsthand happen live. And then I
Mhm.
saw my little paper and I'm like, I felt more bummed out. You're like, oh,
Right.
what a loser. It's kind of heartbreaking. But I think I'm not the only one that has had this sort of experience.
Right.
And what you're saying makes a lot of sense because maybe for me, it's not the automatic writing, it's
No.
something else.
Well, and it's like hearing them because you said you hear music or you know what I'm saying? So for you, it's different. Listen, I'm a, a professional medium. I'm not a good channel writer. Now I might be in 5 years, but today I'm not. It's much easier for me to just sit here, connect and get the message and give it out. Than sit there and write. And if I am writing it, it's not channeled writing. It's almost a dictation of me, like, okay, what do I need to write down for these people? So it's different. So yeah, we all have different strengths and weaknesses in this whole area. Once again, let's go back to math. Some people might be really good at adding and suck at the quadratic equation. You know what I mean? And so it's just like, okay. So it's in this whole area because this spirituality and this connecting to spirit, it's a massive area. It's not like one little way. So it's finding your unique way.
And how do you find your way, especially because it's not like school or like I have a kid that's going to start college and you go to the different universities and you can see that like their outlines and the careers, okay, they have these options and then you choose which one you like, so to speak.
Right.
But in this field, now obviously there's more information, but it's not the same where you can go and say, oh, okay, there's automatic writing, there's clairvoyance,
Mm-hmm.
clairaudience, and then you just choose, oh, yeah, this is my field of expertise. How do
Right.
you connect and realize, especially if it's not written on a board or on a
Yeah.
website that you don't even know it exists. I think that's what I'm trying to say. How do you
Mhm.
know that's your how you connect best?
Yeah, that's an amazing question. Yes. So it's different for everyone because just like we have our five senses, we have them in spirit. So when I get my information in a reading, most of it comes to me in feelings. So I describe it as looking at someone that you know really well and you know exactly what they're going to say before they say it. That's my strength. If I had to depend on what I was seeing, like I'm seeing it with my eyes and then manifesting in front of me, I wouldn't get very far. And then also words. I literally only hear words audibly sometimes. So if I had to depend on spirit to stand next to me and tell me everything, it's not going to go well. So it's finding your strength, right? Is that writing? Is that inner knowing? Is it feeling? Is it seeing? Is it hearing? I have people that say, I saw my dad standing by my bed. I saw this. I saw the dog that passed away run through the yard. I saw, well, clearly their visual is a really good way for them to start. So finding out what is your most strong um, ability, right? To connect with spirit. What works best for you? The way to do that is you have to try different things. You have to try different binaural beats. You have to try channeled writing. You have to try being in your meditative state, whatever that looks like, and just seeing if the information comes in and flows. I always recommend finding, some spiritual people, whether on Instagram, Facebook, whatever this looks like, that you really like, and you can tap into their page. You can look at their page and you can see they're saying, hey, this is how I get my information. Hey, I had a client this worked well for. There's so much free information out there, but it's really going to be a trial and error type thing. And then once you find what works for you, then you keep looking for more of those ways to strengthen it. Once you've strengthened that, then what you want to do is you want to go in and start strengthening your weaker links, right? Because those are going to hold you back a little bit. But first, you really want to get that strong point and make it as strong as you can. And then you think of it like, okay, now I'm going to try to add on channeled writing, or now I'm going to add on literally the audio of hearing them say the word into my head, or whatever that is. So go for your strongest point and then go back, and after you've strengthened that quite a bit, then start adding on your weaker links.
I like that advice. Thank you so much. And mentioning social media and a lot of information out there. Before I space out, because I'm known to do that, please share with us your social media. How can somebody that's interested and somebody that feels a connection with you and thinks that you can help them, you can guide them, or whatever the case may be, how can they connect with you? Your website, your Instagram, Facebook, whatever, share it all so people can reach you.
Thank you. Yes, you can find me on my website at Michelle Clare, CLARE.net. I'm on Facebook as Medium Michelle Clare, Instagram, Medium Michelle Clare, and YouTube, I have a Medium Michelle Clare channel. So you can find me those ways.
Thank you so much. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be rushing to reach out, because just a little bit that you've shared so far has me excited. Like, I want to dive in and get after it and become better. I know one of the challenges that I've had, at least in my personal experience, is identifying sometimes when what I'm seeing, feeling, or getting, it's real, if I'm being accurate, or if it's something that my mind is just making up. Because not everything is made up, but not everything sometimes that I receive or that I think it's true or correct. So what is the best way for us to identify one or the next? Because sometimes it's really, in my experience, some kind of feel the same, and it's hard for me to, okay, is this which one? And the problem with that, once you start doubting even the real messages, you doubt them. So it's fuzzy. I need help on that.
It does get fuzzy. So I would say this: pick a master, pick your angels, pick your life guides, pick someone that you're close to that's in that spiritual realm. For me, I use my angels, and what I will say is this true? And then literally I either get in my mind 2 thumbs up or 2 thumbs down, and I know, and then I have to trust that they gave me the correct answer, and I go with that. Other tools that people use, pendulums. I don't know if you know about a pendulum, but you can swing it so you can get your idea. You can say, is this true? People use tarot cards. They use all of these things are different tools to help guide you on your way. But for me, the easiest way is just say to my angels, is this true? And then I either get the thumbs up or the thumbs down, and then I go from there. You just have to trust your answer, because people want to second guess themselves, then the answer, and then the answer of the answer. It can be this chasing your tail type circles. So you have to have that faith that the answer you receive is going to be the right answer the first time. So as far as asking your angels or asking Jesus or whoever you want, is this correct? And then you get your yes or no, and then you need to take action depending on what your answer was.
No, thank you. I think that makes a lot of sense. And something that you mentioned, trust, that resonates very greatly, because I had an instructor of mine once share with us that you have to start trusting. And once you trust, believe it. And if you receive a message for someone, obviously ask them, hey, is it okay if I share this with you? And if you have that permission, then do it, because the more you trust, the more they're going to trust you. The more you're getting messages and you're helping people with that, the more you're going to get messages, because the spiritual world or angels, they're seeing, oh, this person is actually doing something with the information. It's not just going into the bin or the library, or
Right.
forgotten it. There's actually some action followed by receiving this information. So that's going to generate you getting more connection and more information and being more clear. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that that's a very good point that you brought up. I
Mm-hmm.
know, again, I can only speak from my experience. I have some instances where I had no doubt in my mind. For whatever reason, I just felt that it was correct. And sometimes it's just not as clear.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been trying to trust. If I feel it, I try to communicate it, and knowing that I might be wrong, and own it. If I'm wrong, I am wrong. I'm not going to hide it and make excuses for it. It's just, I'm
Right.
still a work in progress. But one of the things that once I received without even asking, it was interesting, but I can, till today, I still feel that sensation of, yeah, it was just, I knew that was the truth. Is
Mm-hmm.
when um, my daughter was still in the womb,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't know if it was a boy or girl or whatnot, and I wasn't even asking. I really, I just care that they'd be healthy, and that was what's important. But for whatever reason, I put my head like next to the belly,
Mm-hmm.
and I wasn't asking anything, but for whatever reason, I started seeing pink, and just beautiful pink all over, and I just felt this love, and this
Mm-hmm.
like girly sensation and colors, and it was magical for that moment. I
Mm-hmm.
immediately knew that she was a girl,
Right.
and like I had no doubt about it. And when she was born a girl, I wasn't really surprised, but I
Mm-hmm.
was in awe that how could I know? Because it's not something that I even thought, okay, well, is it a boy or a girl? And I'm trying to ask, and then I got that. No, out of nowhere. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes some connections I received are spontaneous, but then when
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to get an answer, sometimes I do, and that's where I have that um, not sure if I'm right or wrong, and that's where I've made a lot of mistakes. But I think it's just fine tuning.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I want to be conscious of your time. I know you have a meeting. Before we say till next time,
Mm-hmm.
if there is one thing that anyone that is watching this conversation that you believe that they should get out of it, or something, that a message that you really want to make sure they get or they understand, if nothing else, know this or
Mm-hmm.
remember this, what would
Right.
that be, please?
That would be that none of us are living this life alone. So even in those moments where you feel completely alone, you need to know you have a spirit team with angels, life guides, loved ones, Jesus, masters, whoever you're relating to around you, helping you through this life. And I believe the number one problem people tend to face is we feel unworthy. Like, why would this angel show up to help me? The truth is, if you didn't have this life right now, you wouldn't be learning and growing in a soul level. It allows us to learn in a different way than you can when you're just spirit, right? So know that you are worthy to be loved, to give love, and that you're never alone in this life.
I think that's great advice. And I know at some points in my life, I felt so alone. And you look around,
Mm-hmm.
there's no one there, and you feel even some emptiness.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew that we were never alone. And just knowing, even if you can't really see it or feel it sometimes, just
Mm-hmm.
knowing makes such a big difference, because it's a little
Mm-hmm.
a sense of just having somebody there that cares about you. I think
Mm-hmm.
that goes a long way. And no matter if you're in a part of your life where depression or
Mm-hmm.
anguish or being scared or lonely or alone or whatever that may be, know that we are never alone. God is always with us. There are beings of light that are always surrounding us and helping us. And if you're going through a dark moment in your life, don't ask why. Why am I suffering this? Why am I living this? Ask the what is the reason that I have to go through this? What do I have to learn? Or how can I improve or be better or wiser from this experience? So
Mhm.
Michelle, I really want to keep talking. I have so many questions and I want to keep on going, but I don't want to abuse your time and your your goodwill. Um, I really truly feel a connection with you. I don't know why. I think it's just
Mhm.
you just irradiate that love and that peace and that beauty that's inside you. And I'm sensitive and I just receive it and I feel it and I love it. So
No, thank you. I feel very connected to you too. It's probably not the first time we've done this, just so you know. And we'll have to do it to be continued or a part two in the future so we can get to more questions.
yeah, I love it. I'm going to let you go because I don't want to make you late for your appointment. But let's stay in touch. Um, I'm a hugger, so long distance. I send you a
Okay,
big
virtual
feather
hug.
hug. Yes, and I want to thank you on my behalf and on the behalf of everyone that's watching it and anyone that can benefit from what we just talked about. And I just wish you light, peace, and love. Thank you so
Oh,
much, Michelle, and I'll talk to
thank
you
you
soon.
so much. Have a beautiful weekend. Thank you.
Bye bye.